When people hear the phrase psychological trauma, they usually picture something catastrophic: war, a serious accident, or a life-altering tragedy. Because you've never experienced anything like that, it's easy to assume there's nothing broken inside you. You tell yourself that the restlessness, the need to control everything, the difficulty trusting people, the defensiveness, or the habit of pushing away the people you love are just personality traits. But the truth is, trauma can quietly form from repeated experiences when your emotions were never truly seen, your needs were never met, or when you had to grow up too fast just to avoid being a burden. From a neuroscience perspective, those patterns aren't simply personality quirks, they're survival strategies. The past may be over, but your nervous system is still stuck there, making your body react as if the danger never left. So, how do you know whether your daily habits and reactions are just who you are or whether they're actually echoes of an old wound? Is there something quietly shaping the way you live and love without you even realizing it? Welcome back to Apex. Today, we're going to look at 9 quiet signs of unhealed trauma. Sign 1, resisting good things. When something good suddenly shows up in your life, is your first reaction suspicion? You get a new opportunity, meet a genuinely kind person, or things start going more smoothly than usual. You should feel relieved, but instead your body gets tense. A small voice in the back of your head whispers, "This is too good to be true. Something's about to go wrong." A lot of people call that pessimism. But from a neuroscience standpoint, this could be a sign that your nervous system has gotten so used to stress that it now treats stress as the normal state. If you grew up in a chaotic, unpredictable, or conflict-heavy environment, your brain learned to keep its threat radar on at all times. Over time, tension became familiar and calm started to feel strange. At that point, your amygdala, your brain's built-in fire alarm, becomes hypersensitive. Even when there's no obvious threat to scan for, it keeps searching for signs of danger. So, a good relationship, a promising opportunity, or a stretch of peace can all get misread as a trap. Even your dopamine reward system can fall out of sync, meaning your body doesn't easily relax into natural joy. It feels more at home in a state of waiting, tension, and guardedness. It's not that you don't want good things to happen. It's that your nervous system is still running a check to make sure this sense of safety is actually real. And when you can't quite trust that good things are safe, you find another way to feel secure by controlling everything around you. Sign 2, the illusion of control. Does it make you uneasy when something is out of your hands? A small disruption, someone running late, a last-minute cancellation, or a text that hasn't been answered can be enough to tighten your body up and send your mind racing through a string of worst-case scenarios. From the outside, you might look like someone who's just very careful. You make lists, prepare backup plans, rehearse conversations in your head, and try to anticipate every possible situation. People might even compliment you for being thoughtful and organized. But inside, you know the real story. You don't control things because it feels good. You control things because uncertainty frightens you. Your body at this point is essentially running in guard mode around the clock. Psychologists call this hypervigilance, a state where the nervous system stays at a constant level of high alert, always braced for danger that could arrive at any moment. This state often develops after past trauma, specifically those moments when you found yourself powerless, unable to stop the pain with no one there to protect you. In those moments, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, gets pulled into a survival mission, mapping out every possible scenario to make sure you never get hurt like that again. But life doesn't follow scripts, and the harder you try to control everything, the more exhausted you become. You think you're steering your own life, but it's really fear that's holding the wheel. You become so focused on making everything perfect that even a small mistake starts to feel like a real threat. Sign 3, paralysis in the face of risk. Have you ever put something off not because you lacked the ability, but because you were afraid of not doing it well enough? You want to apply for a new position, start a new project, or simply share your opinion. But then you hold back. Not because you're not capable, but because in your mind, failure isn't just a bad outcome. It's proof that you're completely worthless. Everyone fears failure, but for someone carrying unhealed trauma, that fear becomes something far more destructive. A small mistake can trigger intense shame. A piece of feedback gets interpreted by the brain as harsh rejection. Instead of seeing failure as something to learn from, you treat it like a verdict on your value as a person. This is where perfectionism steps in, disguised as high standards. But underneath, it's actually a defense mechanism. If love and approval during your childhood were always tied to performance and achievement, you likely developed a deeply harmful belief along the way. I only matter when I get things right. According to attachment theory, when a child doesn't receive consistent love and care, they grow up with a persistent fear. One mistake and they'll be abandoned. So, you're not lazy. You're trying to avoid failure because failure to you means being left behind. But there's a painful irony here. Sometimes the thing holding you back isn't fear of failure at all. It's fear of facing the very success you've always wanted. By the way, if you enjoy listening to psychology content like this while working, relaxing, or before going to sleep, you can find Apex Psychology on Spotify. Simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code on the screen to listen anytime. Now let's continue. Sign 4, self-sabotage. That might sound strange, right? Why would someone be afraid of getting what they've always wanted? Why do some people, when they're about to take a big step forward or build something genuinely good, suddenly stall, pull back, or let everything fall apart? In psychology, this is called self-sabotage, and it often comes from a fear of success. When you actually achieve something that matters, attention shifts to you. Expectations go up, responsibility grows. For someone who has felt abandoned before, experienced real loss, or watched good things disappear too quickly, standing at the top isn't just exciting, it also feels precarious. The brain runs a quiet simulation. If I hold on to this, I'll be responsible for it. If they expect things from me and I let them down, then what? If I have it now and one day it's taken away, then what? This is what's sometimes called waiting for the other shoe to drop. The feeling that the disaster hasn't actually ended, it just hasn't happened yet. The internal alarm system, which only knows how to handle chaos, becomes so sensitive that it can't tolerate an extended period of calm. So you may unconsciously create the disaster first because at least then you feel like you have some control over how things end. And when the mind has to live in that constant state of bracing for impact, the first thing that tends to disappear is the ability to focus. Sign 5, brain fog. Have you ever been sitting in a meeting, reading a page in a book, or listening to someone talk, and suddenly realized your mind had completely drifted somewhere else? You're not tired. You're still physically there, but your head feels empty. The words won't stick. The conversation feels broken, and you have to ask yourself, what was I just thinking about? Don't be so quick to blame your age or lack of sleep. From a neuroscience perspective, brain fog is often connected to a mechanism called dissociation, which can develop as a result of prolonged psychological trauma. In people with unhealed trauma, cortisol levels can stay elevated above normal. Chronic stress can affect the hippocampus, the area of the brain involved in memory, and the ability to process and organize experience. And because the nervous system is constantly running at full capacity to manage the undercurrent of anxious thoughts, the brain ends up overloaded. Think of it like a computer that has 50 browser tabs open at the same time. It's going to start lagging. Dissociation acts like a circuit breaker. When the internal pressure gets too high, the brain automatically disconnects your conscious awareness from the present moment to ease the load. It's the mind's way of telling you the system is overloaded. Stop and deal with what's unresolved inside before you push me to keep running. Sign 6, extreme independence. You work yourself to exhaustion. You handle everything alone. Cleaning, fixing things, carrying financial weight on your own. If someone offers to help, you immediately wave them off. I'm fine, I've got it. You'd rather silently push through until you break than send a message asking a friend or coworker for help. Why? The psychological truth behind this is a difficult one. It may not just be self-sufficiency. It may be the wound of what's sometimes called the ignored child. During the most important years for building who you are, when you were struggling and needed someone to lean on, no one was there. You cried and no one listened. You asked for help and you were either turned away or made to feel like a burden. Your nervous system absorbed a painful survival lesson. Depending on others is dangerous. If I need them, I'll be disappointed. If I speak up, I'll become a burden. So the extreme independence you carry isn't born from strength. It was born from a deep loss of trust in people. It's a suit of armor you put on to protect the very soft part of yourself underneath. You desperately want someone to hold you up, but you're far too afraid of being turned away again. And when you constantly push yourself to handle everything alone, you're quietly compressing all your emotions deeper inside until one day that pressure can't be contained anymore. Sign 7, a narrow emotional window. Sometimes you're the calmest person in the room, but other times something as small as a slow email reply, one careless thing your partner said, or a glass breaking, and suddenly you're in a rage you can't control. You raise your voice, you slam things, or you go to the opposite extreme. You shut down completely, freeze emotionally, and push the people closest to you away. Once the storm passes, you're left drowning in guilt and regret for hurting the people you care about. This kind of unpredictability is explained by a concept called the window of tolerance, introduced by psychiatrist Dan Siegel. Someone with a healthy nervous system has a wide window of tolerance. They can absorb everyday stress calmly and respond with reason. But in people with unhealed trauma, that window shrinks to almost nothing. Your body is like a glass that's already filled to the brim with invisible pressure from the past. It only takes one small drop to make it overflow. You're not intentionally trying to hurt anyone. That outburst may be a reflexive nervous system response from a body that has mistakenly concluded it's no longer safe. Underneath those intense reactions, there's usually a very old belief about your own worth. Sign 8, conditional self-worth. You only feel like you matter when you're being useful, when you're successful, or when you haven't let anyone down. If you strip away all the achievements and the validation, you feel completely worthless. That's the core of conditional self-worth. You've tied your value as a person to what you do rather than who you are. You don't believe you deserve to be loved just for existing. This is a wound that quietly drains you. It explains why you can rack up achievement after achievement, receive endless praise, and still feel a hollow emptiness inside. Compliments work like painkillers for you, temporary relief. The moment you hit one goal, you're already chasing the next one, afraid of falling behind. And the moment someone loves you, you immediately start worrying. If they ever see the real me, they'll leave. The root of this cycle almost always traces back to childhood. When the adults around you, your earliest mirrors, only gave love when you got good grades, or when you were well behaved and immediately pulled that love back or criticized you when you made mistakes, your brain unknowingly internalized that toxic exchange as the way things work. The result is that by the time you're an adult, no one else needs to deny your worth. You do it to yourself every single day. But remember, your value is not something to be negotiated with your accomplishments. You're just seeing yourself in a mirror that was warped a long time ago. Sign 9, pain without a clear cause. You go to the doctor because of persistent stomach trouble. You complain about lower back pain, stiff shoulders and neck, nights you can't sleep, or panic attacks that hit out of nowhere and leave your heart pounding like it might break through your chest. The test results come back with no clear explanation, no obvious physical injury. The doctor sums it up briefly. You're stressed, but you don't understand what you're stressed about because life actually feels okay right now. This is one of the clearest illustrations of what Dr. Bessel van der Kolk described in his widely known work. The body keeps the score. The conscious part of your mind may have moved past the difficult memories. You may have talked yourself into believing I'm over it, but your autonomic nervous system, your heart rate, breathing, sleep, and digestion may still be carrying the marks of prolonged stress. The anger that was suppressed, the fears that were never spoken, the tears that were swallowed back down, they don't simply disappear. They can show up as muscle tension, disrupted sleep, digestive issues, and irregular heartbeat, and altered stress responses throughout the body. Those hard-to-explain physical symptoms may be the body's way of asking you to pay attention to what the mind has been ignoring for far too long, replacing the armor that no longer fits. If you recognize yourself in any of those signs, hold on to this. The restlessness, the need to control, the exhausting independence, the emotional outbursts. These aren't personality flaws. They may be traces of unhealed trauma, wounds that were never properly addressed. Your nervous system once had to stretch itself to protect you. Those patterns helped you survive, but now they may be making it harder for you to experience real peace. Healing isn't about forcing yourself to think positively. It's about giving your nervous system enough new experiences of safety, enough times that it can learn. Right now is not the same as back then. And that process can start with these 4 steps. 1. Don't believe everything you think. When the amygdala's alarm goes off, it floods your mind with worst-case scenarios and convinces you they're absolute truth. You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to silence those thoughts. Instead, try a technique called cognitive diffusion. When a thought like, "I'm a failure, no one needs me," shows up, say to yourself, "I'm having a thought that I'm a failure." This small shift in how you frame the thought works like hitting an emergency brake. It shows the brain that a thought is just a piece of data passing through, not a life sentence. 2. Don't try to think your way out of anxiety. When panic sets in, instead of letting your mind spiral into the future, bring it back to the present through your senses. This is the foundation of a technique called somatic grounding. Press your hand against a table. Listen to the sound of a fan. Feel the cold of an ice cube. Notice the feeling of your feet on the floor. When you redirect your attention to concrete physical signals, the brain is forced to pause the internal dialogue it's been running. You're sending your body a clear biological message. Right here, right now, I am safe. 3. Don't do everything alone. For someone used to extreme independence, asking for help can feel dangerous, like you're exposing a weakness. So you don't have to start with something big. Start with something low stakes. Ask a coworker to hold the elevator. Ask a friend to grab you a glass of water. Or simply say out loud, "I'm feeling a little worn out today." When you take that small step and receive a normal, kind response in return, your nervous system picks up new data. It learns that speaking up can be safe and that your needs don't have to be a burden. 4. Don't wait for others to tell you that you matter instead of chasing external milestones and hoping they'll finally give you a sense of worth. You have to start repairing your own mirror from the inside. In psychology, this process is called repairing. When a feeling of hurt or vulnerability surfaces, don't judge yourself or tell yourself you're too sensitive or weak the way someone once did when you were young. Stand on the side of the younger version of yourself. Name the emotion and validate it. "I'm really hurting right now, and that makes complete sense." This gentle form of self-care will gradually loosen the grip of that harmful belief tying your worth to your performance. In the end, what matters isn't how many signs you recognized. What matters is whether you're starting to see those signs with a little more compassion. Healing is the process of learning to stop just surviving and starting to actually live in the present. Out of the 9 signs today, which one hit closest to home for you? Leave a comment below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear, a reminder that they're not alone. If this video made you think of someone who's been quietly struggling, share it with them. And if you want to keep exploring what's going on beneath the surface with Apex, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. I'm Apex. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next